It was the most exciting fish I've ever caught, just this little fish. I'm a software developer and I work from home. There's some days after being at the computer for too long, you really need a break. And it was one of those days, I really need to get out. I've always been a fisherman, like getting out in the small streams, and so I heard that Little Weenie Creek had bass in it. Put on just a little plastic lure and came down to Little Weenie Creek and had a fish. And I caught this little fish and I thought, oh yeah, a little bass. I pulled it up and I thought, hang on, this isn't a bass, it's got round fins. So I just released it. I went up to a friend of mine who lived up the road, who's a keen fisherman too, and I said, look, I think I caught a little Macquarie perch in Little Weenie Creek. And he goes, sure? Yeah, you must be joking. And we went on the net and searched up and we go, well, hang on, that's an endangered fish.
They are a rare fish, even in the most pristine areas, they're still not common. You only find, within a 300-metre stretch, you might only find half a dozen fish. The range has reduced a lot. Now they're only found in small sections of the sort of mid to upper Lachlan, Abercrombie catchments and the Murrumbidgee, and in the Hawkesbury-Nepean they're only found in the most sort of pristine protected areas usually. We made a special trip to come and survey the creek, and sure enough we found about 5 of them, I think.
I knew they were rare and I knew there was a problem with them. I'm amazed that we've been able to catch one and find one here.
They change every few years. The genetics shows that all these northern population fish have been isolated from the rest of the Hawkesbury ones for about 6,000 years at least. There's a lot of evidence to show that they can be classified as a separate species, and once we know more about their biology and ecology, we're hoping that they will be classified as a separate species.
Weenie Creek's a very interesting creek, and an interesting situation in the fact that it's got some areas that are probably amongst the most pristine of what you'll find in the Hawkesbury-Nepean catchment, and we have some very pristine parts of the catchment with a large proportion of it being in the World Heritage Area and the reserve system. So, and it's very unique, this creek, in the fact that it flows out of the World Heritage Area and into Currajong Township, but then downstream of Currajong Township it enters World Heritage Area again.
They seem to be a sensitive fish. They're only found in really pristine, clear streams. It's the only population that we've found in the Hawkesbury catchment that's not within a protected National Park or Sydney Catchment Authority area, so that there's still a lot of potential for bad quality water to come down through their habitat.
There's a very active community group within the area, Hawkesbury Rainforest Network and other associated landholders and groups. So there's a lot of landholders there that have been working for probably on 10 years now on this section of river to try and fix up the condition of the riverbank.
The Catchment Management Authority really was quite encouraging that I should apply for some grants to stop any more detritus or privet or lantana flowing into Little Weenie Creek.
The landowners have been slowly replacing those weeds with native plants. Native plants have a heaps better input into the system for habitat and food to drive it. With the climate change vulnerability study that's been completed through the Hawkesbury-Nepean Catchment Management Authority, it's identified that even when you're restoring a river, there's considerations you need to take into account. So doing weed control on riverbanks, for example, it's going to be important not to open it up too much, because you might increase the water temperature, which has been found is a major factor influencing Macquarie perch.
They are potentially vulnerable to climate change, partly because they do live in these smaller streams. They may have certain temperature cues to induce them to spawn at a certain time of year. We've changed the temperature that may upset their natural spawning conditions and may induce them to spawn earlier, where other conditions such as food availability might not be right for them.
This fish lives in a little creek that it's a bit of a bit more than a trickle. The creek's only about 3 kilometres from this point up, and I can't help but think that this fish is like an indicator for the environment. If we do lose it, it's going to show that we just haven't been able to manage the environment.
We are working with a river that's already got a pretty high recovery potential or pretty high capacity to bounce back from damage as it is now, because it's in such good condition for most of its length. But there's always room for improvement.
If we can't control certain effects of climate change, then the best way to manage it is to keep everything else as natural as possible for them. Small changes, may be enough to cause them to disappear from certain areas, as they have in the past.
Something's happened in Kurrajong that's preserved these little fish, and it's something that we need to, treasure and keep preserving and keep looking after.